On. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the organizers of this event. This event is organized by the Slovak Alliance for Innovation Economy and Coalition for Digital Ads for SMEs. My name is Michal Kardoš, and I'm the Executive Director of the Slovak Alliance for Innovation Economy. Our alliance was founded in 2014 and is currently the largest innovative alliance in Slovakia that acts as an independent non-profit platform representing the digital and innovative economy in building public-private partnerships on the national, regional, and European level. Currently, we represent more than 140 companies, innovative digital tech companies, just different and various startups, scale-ups, even unicorns, corporations, venture capital funds, angel investors, co-working spaces, accelerators, as well as non-profit organizations and projects aimed at supporting innovative ecosystem and environment in Slovakia and the whole European Union. Before we continue, I would like to say a few words, or before we continue talking about digital space and the rights, responsibilities in the digital space. Let me say that we condemn the attack on Ukraine. The attack on Ukraine is an attack on freedom and democracy, on our European precious values. We would like to express our solidarity with Ukraine and with the people of Ukraine. Coming back to our today's topic on Digital Services Act. So let me start with why DSA matters. DSA has two main goals: to create a safer space in which the fundamental rights of all users of digital services are protected, and to establish a level playing field to foster innovation, growth, and competitiveness both in the European Union and globally. The proposed Digital Services Act aims to set common but tailored obligations and accountability rules for providers of network infrastructure, such as internet access providers, hosting service providers, and in particular for online platforms. The DSA is a part of the European Commission's vision for Europe's digital future. It is designed to shape a safer online environment, also to tackle issues like illegal or harmful content, online content, including content such as hate speech, disinformation, and illegal online sale of goods and services. The DSA is intended to provide regulation and transparency in the process. The DSA is an opportunity to create a better business environment that would actually help the EU compete better on the innovation and innovative and entrepreneurial front. It is an opportunity to harmonize the online content in the European Union and create a comprehensive legislation that could also set some global standards. So now I would like to introduce Michal Bony, Dr. Michal Bony, who will be the moderator of today's event. And now let me pass the word to Michal. So Michal, please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Michal, for your introductory words. And I think it is important to inform all of us that our thoughts are with Ukraine, as you have mentioned, because it is very important for us, our values, thinking about freedom and democracy. And today's discussion about Digital Services Act is very important, and there are many reasons of the significance of this regulation. Firstly, this is the first step to change the environment, digital environment, after 20 years of the functioning of Commerce Directive. Of course, on the way, we have had GDPR, we have had many debates about data services and so on and so on. But I think the issue is for us to analyze and to understand what kind of impact DSA could have on our activity as business activity, on us as the citizens and users, and on our economy. And this is the main topic of our today's discussion. Now I want to give the floor to Ivan Stefanec, member of the European Parliament, because he was and he is in the center, in the middle of all discussions. Ivan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michal, and also thank you for your very clear words about brave Ukrainian people. As you and Michal have mentioned, also my thoughts and all our thoughts at the European Parliament from Strasbourg, where I am currently, are with brave Ukrainian people fighting against the Russian invasion, and we are supporting them every single moment. Now we are talking about DSA, and I have to stress out the fact that we are in middle of digital revolution. Basically, in last 10 years, the ratio of digital sector in global economy has doubled, and it will grow. So it means that we have to set up the rules. We have to create the right legal framework in order to build digital single market in Europe, which is our priority. We have to improve infrastructure, we have to improve skills, but we have to improve legislation. And talking about legislation, DSA is a key legislation together with DMA and also with Artificial Intelligence Act. DSA and DMA we have approved in the European Parliament, and the trialogue has started already. In terms of Artificial Intelligence Act, we are waiting for the proposal from the European Commission. There is the statement from French presidency that they would like to basically finish DSA trialogue by the end of first half of this year. However, taking into consideration current circumstances, current situation in Europe with Russian invasion to Ukraine, it's possible that it will be prolonged to second half and will be managed by Czech presidency. However, it will stay the priority, and all of us, we do hope that it will be approved in trialogue, because I have to say there is a general agreement between Commission, Parliament, and the Council that this is really very important. Why this is important? Because we are setting new rules. As it was mentioned already, we are setting global standards. So far, market is basically in the hand of only few companies, but as a matter of fact, on the market, there are 10,000 platforms just in the European Union, on the European market, and 90% of them are SMEs. So we have to improve situation for SMEs, and this is one of the objectives also of having DSA, to improve situation for SMEs, to create simple, secure, transparent environment, and this environment should improve potential innovation capacity for all SMEs on the market. Also, it has to improve the access to data for those SMEs, and at the same time to improve consumer protection. I have to say that DSA I consider personally as the key legislation from the European Parliament in this period. There was a very good general discussion. From my point of view, the output is quite good. So the result from European Parliament is positive, and I do hope that basically this proposal will be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for those words and introductory remarks. I think it is important to understand, as also Michał Kardos said, that we need kind of global standards in that area, and also that we need to consider how important DSA, DMA, and all those solutions will be for small medium enterprises, because this is crucial for the European economy, and this is crucial for the future future development. So during the process of debates in the European Parliament, many issues and dimensions related to the SMEs functioning was raised by all partners. Now, as you have mentioned, it is a time of negotiations in trilogue. We don't know exactly how long it will take because, as I know, as it was informed, there are many complicated issues, yes, how to legislate algorithms, how to legislate targeted advertising, and also online sales. So I think that the debate is lasting, but in light of these negotiations, I think it will be very important to present our views on the process and after that future implementation, because many solutions in the legislation will be important for the future digital economy in our countries. We will have 3 rounds of our debates, and we will start with the first round with a question addressed to you, Ivan, because you, as a member of the European Parliament, was very active during the work on DSA and also DMA. How do you assess the approach of the European Parliament towards this act?
Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned, I think the result is good one. Taking into consideration that there were many pressures, I'd like to mention a couple of points which are quite important. First of all, there was the pressure to exempt media from DSA. It didn't go through, so media are included, which is, I think, very important, particularly from point of view of fighting against misinformation. So media is included. Secondly, in terms of protecting freedom, there was discussion about illegal content, whether to take it down immediately or not. At the end, the agreement or the output from the European Parliament is that illegal content will be not immediately put down because there might be also many demands, many requests for, let's say, not fair competition. So from many different angles. So I think also this was the good result. In terms of targeted ads, there stays this possibility, which is important for SMEs, that targeted ads will be also as the tool for SMEs for future. However, there are also some rules, some limitation, but basically not attacking the substance, that there is still the chance to use targeted ads. There is the clear opportunity. What is the ban? The ban is on advertising for children, which is, I think, also very positive, that there is a clear ban on advertising for children. And there is also some adjustment for tracing, which might cause some complication for tracing of business subjects. Last but not least, there is the compliance between DSN and GDPR, which is positive from my point of view, because basically it is the confirmation that GDPR we have to accept, and also according to DSA, basically GDPR will be accepted. In terms of protection of SMEs, honestly, we called for higher protection of SMEs in the European Parliament. Not all amendments went through, but from my point of view, the protection of SMEs is quite satisfactory, particularly from the point of view of access to data. So this is the short summary.
Thank you very much, Ivan. I think it is very important background for our further discussion, and you have mentioned the GDPR as some kind of background for the many discussions. And I fully agree that the ban to use data of minors for and address targeted advertisements to minors is very important for all of us and for this secure and safe internet in the European Union, and also to ban to use sensitive personal data as it was described in GDPR. We have a very interesting list, important list of partners and panelists today, representatives of many institutions. Now I want to ask Daniel Wseteczka, Director of Digital Economy and Smart Specialization from Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic, about the approach of Czech Republic during discussions with Council on DSA. Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. First, thank you for inviting us to this event. Preliminary statement. As you know, we have the upcoming presidency of the Council, and I have to state that the digital agenda will be one of the priorities, including DSA. Just to put forward some basic principles that we were guided through the negotiations of the file, I would mention three of them. First, we really promoted the DSA to be based on the best practice and the basic principles of the former e-commerce directive. Preserving principles like country of origin, the prohibition of general monitoring obligation, and the liability exemption for intermediaries. We are really happy that the DSA is based on these principles. The second point, because we really see the connection between innovative ecosystem and the regulation and the need to balance it somehow, the regulation not to hinder the innovation activities. We promoted the proportionality and the exemptions for micro and small enterprises are really good institute. We are happy with. And third one is that we try to keep the DSA horizontal regulation. It was partly mentioned to refrain to put too many issues into the DSA regulation, to preserve it to be a horizontal tool, not to snowball too many issues with the file. Because still we think that it should contribute, based on the Article 114 of the treaty, to the harmonization of the internal market. So those are three principles we try to maintain during the discussions.
Thank you very much. It means how important it is to continue the experience. Yes, you have mentioned the role and the significance of e-commerce directive and best practices related to e-commerce directives, and probably, and I think we could agree that the basis for DSA is also related to those best practices of e-commerce directive, and you have raised the problem of harmonization, which is important for the digital single market, and I think the DSA can bring this harmonization on the higher level than it exists now. But of course, it will be related in the future with a proper implementation in all countries of this solution. We have among us today also representative of the big tech company, Google, Julia Schwartzova, Government Affairs and Public Policy from Google. Julia, the floor is yours, the screen is yours. what kind of crucial elements in the DSA you would like to mention important for further discussions, please?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me with you here today, and thank you, Sapir, for organizing this important session. I would start a bit more broadly. I'm sure we will be able to get into the details further down in the discussion. But generally, from our position, I want to make it clear that at Google, we fully support the Digital Services Act and its objectives. From our perspective, even though this may at times be misunderstood, but from our perspective, the choice is not between regulation or no regulation. It's about ensuring that we have sensible regulation here in Europe that will be future-proof. Companies like ours need clear rules and flexibility to innovate. And we do think that the rules need to balance ensuring a competitive and digital marketplace in Europe that ensures people and businesses have access to the best products and services in the world. At the same time, they also need consistent rules, and we know that without an EU-level law, we will be left as subject to inconsistent rules, fragmented regulatory environment, which would make it hard for us and for other companies to operate across the market seamlessly. So we welcomed the Commission's proposal, and especially the fact that it maintained the core principles of the e-commerce directive. As was already mentioned, this includes the conditional intermediary liability regime, the prohibition on mandating general monitoring, which we think is incredibly important, and of course the country of origin principle. These, as we saw with the e-commerce directive, enabled the growth of the digital economy in Europe, and importantly contributed to expanded access to information. However, we would be, of course, concerned about any attempts to erode these principles, as well as any proposals within the current process of negotiations that could have unintended consequences as a result of difficult compromises that are often made in trilogue negotiations. Here, I would mention two specific areas where we see particular risks, and I'm happy to go into further detail a little bit later in the discussion. But the two probably most important areas here are proposals that would inhibit platforms' ability to address the spread of misinformation, which is particularly relevant today more than ever, as well as some provisions with regards to trader identification and verification that could have unintended consequences specifically for SMEs. But overall, as I said, we support an effective DSA that will really help people trust the products and services that also we as a company provide. And we are more than happy to work with regulators during these negotiations to bring some of the concerns that we may have to further light. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
That you have presented the view, the positive view on DSA, but on the other hand, that you have mentioned some risks related to the unintended consequences, because it's crucial. And you know, during the debate on DSA, very often the problem of targeted ads, banning or not banning, or changing the model of targeting, because it was crucial not to ban, but changed probably the model, and the minority issue and the ban for using, as it is in GDPR, sensitive data of personal data for leading those targeted ads is important. Also, dark patterns, yes, was touched in the proposal voted in the European Parliament. It's crucial, but you have raised the problem of disinformation, and I think that we need to come back after that to in the next round to this issue. And now in the first round, I want to move to Michał Kanownik, then ZIPS Digital Poland, Polish entrepreneur and very active and one of the best Polish entrepreneurs at the area of digital. Michał, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much.
With a question, I'm sorry. With a question, what is the DSA bringing to entrepreneurs and employers, in particular SMEs, because you have been very active during the debate when Parliament discussed those issues. So please share with us your view on that.
Thank you very much, Michał. We have in our discussion a lot of Michals today. Of course, it's very good. Of course, I have to agree with both Michals in this discussion. First of all, as mentioned by Michał Kardos, that in general, of course, we have to, and absolutely we agree that a general aim of the DSA as a fundamental, crucial regulatory act in European market is very good to create a safer digital space where the fundamental rights of users are protected and to establish a level playing field for business. Of course, absolutely, we are fundamentally for it. But of course, as every regulatory act, especially this kind of fundamental act as a DSA, bringing to all companies on the European market new requirements, new obligations, and especially a lot of challenges in the process of adoptions of this act. And we have to remember that, as you mentioned in some statement, that we have to remember that it's completely different situation with this adoption process in big company, as for example Google, and completely different situation in SMEs. And fortunately, Parliament decided to remember about it and understand that this is the completely different situation between big and small companies. And I hope that in trilogue we will keep this difference on the table. Of course, we have to remember about 3 points at the beginning of our discussion. First, problem, which, in my opinion, the huge problem for SMEs in this act is major impact will most likely be caused by the requirements regarding traceability of business users put on every intermediary online service. As Julia mentioned, the obligation of verified every company, every client will be absolutely too much for especially SMEs, and I'm afraid that this will be the major problem for SMEs in adoption of DSA in the future. But of course, we have to remember about two positive points in after parliamentary discussion about DSA. First, as you mentioned about ads. Of course, I'm very glad that Parliament didn't decide to put a general ban on targeted ads, that Parliament understood that this kind of ads is crucial for SMEs to find a client on the digital market in Europe. And of course, this compromise in Parliament is, in my opinion, very good solution. And second positive things after Parliament discussion is exemption for micro and small and medium-sized enterprises from certain DSA obligations. I hope that in the next questions we will be able to focus a little bit more on these exemptions, because I think that is crucial for SMEs. But of course, as every regulatory act, especially as I mentioned on the beginning, this fundamental act as a DSA for whole market, this project, this act would bring a completely new landscape for business, small and large. We have to remember that this regulation will be create a completely new market in Europe for every companies. But of course, we have to, in this discussion, especially trilogue right now, we have to remember that for SMEs, these challenges is completely different, and we have to remember that a small and medium-sized company, it's a specific companies and crucial for European market, and we have to remember about them and protect before too strong regulations.
Thank you very much, Michał, because it is important to understand that the good and the best regulation means implementable regulation. When we will have too many problems with implementation, too many obstacles, so it will be two lines, yes? Reality, business reality, and the regulatory framework. If we want to avoid it, we need to consider some issues, especially looking not only size, but the specificity of some sectors and business. And I think it should be done during the trilogue negotiations if you want to have a proper implementation in the future. Thank you very much. And we are moving to the second round of questions and answers. I'm coming back to Ivan Stefanec. Ivan, what in your opinion is the main outstanding, what are the main outstanding issues that European Parliament considers crucial within trilogues? What is the most important now during the trilogue? Ivan, please.
Thank you, Michał. Yes, first of all, as it was already mentioned, I'd like to highlight the fact that DSA is a horizontal legislation. This point has been already mentioned by Mr. Šedečka. I have to agree with that. This is horizontal legislation, so we cannot solve all the issues by DSA. We have to understand that. So also we have to take into consideration this fact during trialogue. But I expect that during trialogue there will be on the table again the same issues as it was discussed in the Parliament. So potential ban on targeted advertising, exemption on media, and as well as trader identification. So those will be the three issues which basically Parliament clarified its position. Anyway, I assume that it will be again on the table during trialogue. Parliament will stand with the position which was agreed in the Parliament. The position of European Commission is very close to the European Parliament, so I do believe that final version will be very, very close to the version approved by the Parliament. But if you're asking about outstanding issues, so targeted advertising, media exemption, and position of SMEs, basically.
Thank you very much, because there are key points also for our discussions and for public consideration about those issues. Daniel, from your perspective, what kind of anticipations for the European digital markets main changes once the DSA is approved, and how will citizens benefit from new rules? So are moving a little in the direction of benefits for users, for citizens. What is your opinion?
Thank you for the question. From the general point of view, a lot has been mentioned by Michal Kanovník, so I will not repeat it. But as you mentioned, the exercise after the act is approved, the exercise will be both on the national regulatory level to implement it efficiently and correctly, set up the bodies required by the regulation and so on. And also the exercise will be in all the targeted intermediaries of the file. From the point of view of the consumers or users, as we all know, there are a lot of new provisions. Basically, the introduction of the Know Your Business Customer principle that should somehow prevent and protect the consumers from buying, let's say, some stuff, goods, services, violating somehow any law, or such as counterfeits and so on. So the processes related to this will be in place. Also, there are a lot of remedy institutes being introduced. The providers will have to set up an internal complaint process. They will have to deal with it. Or there is a possibility also for the out of the court dispute settlement body to be used, and part of DSA is also dealing with that. So from the point of view of the consumers, it will really raise their assurance when using the online services that fall under the scope of the DSA. But then again, it's the balance between the overregulation for the enterprises and between the protection of the consumers. So that's thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. This balance is very important, yes, because interest of business and future development and innovation and protection of consumers. And in my mind, it is very important that in the European Union, very often we are going in the direction of protection of consumers, as it is described in DSA in the modern, in the scheme of Know Your Business Customer, because it is very modern not only to talk about fundamental rights, but transfer fundamental rights, other fundamental rights as citizens, as humans, into consumers' rights. Yes, and it was done. It is described in DSA, but on the other hand, it will. I think it will depend on the practical implementation, how it will look in the future. And I want to come back now to Julia with a question. What is your evaluation of the Council's and the European Parliament proposals? Which new concepts does Google find interesting? Which does it favor? And which does it consider questionable? You have started to present this view, but it is a time for to develop it, to present more detail. Julia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that question. If I may, I would illustrate it with one of the two examples that I mentioned at the start, looking at the issue of the spread of disinformation specifically. I think that is on top of everyone's minds these days. And as I said, the ability of platforms to effectively tackle this problem is more important today than probably ever. And I think it's a shared objective for all stakeholders to really be able to tackle the problem effectively and at scale. But from our assessment, we see that some of the proposals, while most likely well-intentioned, might actually inhibit our ability to do that. Here, I would mention the provisions proposed both by Council and Parliament on requiring platforms to notify and allow users to appeal every time content is demoted, which would effectively undermine the levers that we have as a company to use or to increase the good and to decrease the bad content on our platform. If we had to notify bad actors every time that their content is demoted within our services, this would enable them to test what gets demoted and when, for instance, by uploading a slightly different version of a video. And the insights that they might be able to get from this process would effectively give them the keys to our demotion algorithms, and they would abuse that. We are also concerned about obligations to share data on how we do content moderation with any nonprofit. Of course, we are in favor of greater transparency, and there are already levers for that in the text. But the Parliament's proposal for any state or to share this data with any nonprofit would effectively enable any state or bad actor to set up a nonprofit and ask for this data to our risk assessments and also to mitigation measures. Now, we would need safeguards to be introduced into the text, so not everyone can just get the key to how our systems work in order to avoid potential abuse, of course. And then the last issue on this topic that I would like to highlight here for us today relates to risk assessments. And again, this is a proposal coming from the European Parliament, which significantly expands the risk assessment obligation in ways that we fear could harm innovation in Europe without really protecting users. And specifically, it concerns the requirement to conduct risk assessments and consult with third parties before launching a new service, which could slow down our response to crisis situations by launching a new type of misinformation label or a new information panel, as we did, for instance, repeatedly during the COVID pandemic, first for information about coronavirus, and then rapidly updating it once information about vaccines became available. We fear that under these proposals, innovation and launch of new services, which is needed quickly in times of crises, would just not be possible. But as I mentioned, these are things that we see when we assess the impact of some proposals on our services, and we don't think that necessarily these are the intentions of regulators. So we appreciate any dialogue that we can have in order to avoid these unintended consequences.
Thank you very much. I think you have presented the serious objections, because it's crucial. Yes, I fully agree with the problem of accessibility of all information about mechanisms and models and sharing the data which are creating the background for content moderation. Another issue is related to the problem which was not solved in DSA. It means illegal content. It's easier to remove this content, and harmful content, because it's out of legal descriptions. Yes, and you have mentioned the problem with moderation. I think that we have no time for much more detailed discussion about it, but I think it is crucial if we want to have DSA as a real instrument in the fight against disinformation. So we need to be much more precise in description of those responsibilities and requirements addressed to the companies. Now, Michał, the third Michał during our discussion, what is your evaluation of Council's and European Parliament's proposals from the perspective of small medium enterprises. What is in favor, and what do you want to consider as a questionable, please?
Thank you very much. Of course, as I mentioned before, the most positive change in this act on the European Parliament discussion is absolutely avoiding a general ban of targeted. Absolutely, it's in favor, and we have to agree as we meet today that this is a very good decision. But of course, time will show how much the form of restricting targeted ads lighter than proposed by Commission will affect SMEs, because time will be checking these solutions, these decisions. But for sure, this is a very good decision from the European Parliament side. As I mentioned before, very good and in my opinion is crucial exemptions for SMEs. It includes them from the obligation of annual reporting of content moderation measures, obligation of establishing an internal complaint handling system, notification of suspicions of criminal offenses, and other included in Section 3 of the Act. It's very good, and it shows that Parliament understand that SMEs are on the different level of adoptions of new regulations than large companies. Of course, the amendment enabling SMEs to join a collective legal representation may also prove to be a valuable tool for smaller business affected by legal disputes. But of course, we have to focus on the less positive decisions in this act after Parliament discussion. And of course, I have to back to the requirements for traceability of business users put on every intermediary online service. As I mentioned before, two things in this area. Know your business customer is a principle, means that SMEs identity will have to be verified by every intermediary service, such as domain name register and content distribution networks. And it will force service providers to verify all information provided by small and medium businesses before they can, for example, open a website. And in my opinion, it will be a bureaucratic nightmare for everybody. So I think that this fragment of DSA it may be crucial for SMEs, and unfortunately in this negative way. So for sure, three very positive things: avoiding the general ban on targeted ads, exemption for SMEs, the amendments enabling SMEs to join a collective legal representation, but especially a negative one is the last one. I mean the obligation for verifying all customers. It's a very short, briefly from my side, positive and negative things before a trilogue.
Thank you very much, Michal. I think it is also important as you have raised the question of redundant bureaucratic obligations. I think it's important. It should be balanced. Yes, what is possible for SMEs to make if we want to avoid the situation in which SMEs trying to be much more digital will be the situation in which they should pay to a consultant to support them in their digital activity, because it will be destroyable for their future development and also profits. Yes, which is important in the health economy.
It will be better for European economy and digital market in Europe that SMEs will spend a lot of money for engineers, not for lawyers.
Yeah, good. It's a great solution. But on the other hand, I want to add that avoiding this general ban of targeted advertisement open, in my perception, in my view, opens the discussion what kind of model of targeting should exist. Yes, because okay, we can discuss about the efficiency of different kind of targeting, the consent done by users, very often questionable, the contextual advertisement, or some kind of new models discussed, topics, so it's not related to the analysis of individual data and behavioral data. Rather, it's much more focused on grouping and collecting, gathering some behaviors. But okay, it will be the further discussion. But we are in the different kind of situation when we are not discussing about ban. We are discussing about how to make it in the best way, taking into account business interests, especially small, medium enterprises, and on the other hand, fundamental rights of users, of citizens. Now we are going to the third round of our discussion, and I'm moving to Ivan Smets. We have touched the problem of using DSA tools for fighting with disinformation. How does, in your opinion, the DSA fight disinformation? Ivan, please.
Yes, Michal, this is very, very important point. As a matter of fact, this was one of the objectives of having DSA, to fight against misinformation and to have some tools how to do that. First of all, I have to say once again, this is horizontal legislation, so we cannot solve everything. But what is very clear, platforms has to take responsibility for the contents. That's the crucial point. That's the basic point, that if some platforms are spreading misinformation, there must be clear responsibility for platforms for this misinformation. Second point, there must be independent evaluation of that, independent body to check it, which would be not political. If it would be political body, I'm afraid it can work against democracy, because it might be misused in political fights, which is very, very also important to have this point in mind. Third point, we have to be aware of the fact that we would like to create the same rules for European market and to simplify the rules, which is very clear. But in terms of judiciary, we have national responsibility. We have different judiciary system in different countries. So somehow we have to find a compliance. And as we mentioned in DSA, there must be one body representative for each country in order to enforce DSA rules. But now what we are discussing at the start of trialogue, there must be some kind of compliance or surveillance on the European level, maybe under the umbrella of European Commission as the executive body, in order to have the same enforcement everywhere. Also, because it is very important if we fight against the misinformation, that we have the same approach everywhere. So if we would like to have enforceable legislation, we have to have the same application rules everywhere. So those are 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. If you want to have efficient and effective fighting with disinformation, we need to have, as you have raised, this enforcement body at the European level. It is important. And on the other hand, we need to review, it should be the next step, we need to review from the perspective of disinformation, legal or illegal aspects of disinformation, we need to review national law. And as it would be possible, we need to harmonize some issues. This is the long process, yes, but it is a requirement for the future. Daniel, what kind of arrangements will help ensure the independence of national regulators in regard to platforms? This is the next step to and the continuation of what was said by Ivan. Independence of national regulators in regard to platform, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I will pick up on the statement made by Mr. Štefanec. As we all know, each member state has to appoint an independent digital services coordinator that would play a role in the enforcement of the DSA, to provide it with people, financial backing, expert backing, and so on. But nevertheless, when DSA is a horizontal regulation, there are institutes for the cooperation of the national coordinators, be it in the newly established European Board for Digital Services, that should be empowered to provide kind of guidance in some issues that could be harmonized along the enforcement principles done by the respective individual coordinators. And also there is an institute for the joint enforcement, joint investigation at the EU level that could be raised and started by digital coordinators, and it should be in cooperation with the as is the current state of play, the cooperation between respective coordinators and European Commission. So, and still the coordinator and the courts will implement within the respective jurisdiction, but in some tasks there should be some harmonization of the enforcement. That's for sure, and we will see how we will set up the cooperation between the coordinators and the Commission. So that's a short reply to your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm from Poland, yes, and this is a big debate in my country now about establishing this national body for free, keeping the conditions for free speech. And there are many problems, and of course there is a lack of trust to the government, yes, because of many reasons. I don't want to describe it precisely, but probably you know. And from this perspective, it's better to have also some kind of European institution which will be much more independent, with overview on all European countries, with all problems related to disinformation. Of course, now this is a big question of European fight against disinformation coming from Russia. This is the key issue. And Julia, we are going to you. Which outstanding issues have not been addressed in the proposal firstly presented by the European Commission to the Parliament, and after that, after voting in the text proposed by the European Parliament? What is out of this proposal, but from your point of view is important and should be solved?
Well, I think it goes back to what has been mentioned throughout the discussion.
Sure.
There are a few measures that have very good intent, but might miss the objective because of the way that they are drafted. I think, as I mentioned at the start, we support a quick adoption of the text, but we still hope that some of these issues will be resolved in trilogue negotiations. And in terms of specific topics, I think for the discussion, in addition to the two that I mentioned, which is the provisions relating to the fight against misinformation and trader verification, I would also add the one on ads. On this information, I already spoke in more detail on trader identification and verification. This was already mentioned a few times. I would just add a little bit more color to that, because not only would these obligations be burdensome, of course, for SMEs, they would also most likely incentivize large platforms to work with large traders and retailers, which would effectively edge SMEs out of the digital economy, which would be particularly unfortunate in markets that rely on SMEs, where SMEs are the backbone of the economy. But in the interest of reducing risk and cost compliance of cost, then this would most likely be the result. So this is something that should be definitely avoided in the last act. And one other thing to mention on this topic is also that the requirement for all intermediaries to carry out checks on business users is not only disproportionate, but in our view is also impossible for some intermediaries, for some services. When you take Google search or Google shopping, we simply do not have a direct relationship with business users for those services, and therefore we cannot carry out those checks. Also, another example is an SME simply not being able to post a video on YouTube without prior verification. Again, we don't think that this was the intent, but we would need a little bit of a further work to tweak the text in order to avoid these consequences. And on ads, I would just add that as it was mentioned previously in this discussion, the Parliament text proposes, luckily, not a flat ban. I think we are all cautious of the negative impact there. But it does propose a ban on the collection of personal data for the purposes of delivering behaviorally targeted advertising to minors, and on the targeting of advertising based on sensitive user data. Now, here we would just caution that the final text should take into account the challenges that are currently very much present in terms of age verification. This is an ongoing discussion at the EU level, but I think stakeholders are conscious of the fact that it is still challenging to ascertain the age of all users. So any obligations should only apply, we think, to known minors in order to be proportionate and to not lead to more user data collection, which is also not the aim of the text. And it should also be recognized that some degree of targeting is needed in order to ensure that minors don't inadvertently see some age inappropriate ads. So these are the things that we think should still be taken into account. And while we support the Council and the Commission text on this, if a compromise is needed with the Parliament text, again, we are very happy to work with the regulators to provide the insights that we have from our business to achieve the objectives.
Yeah, thank you very much, Julia. I remember the discussion during the debate on GDPR when it was raised the problem of age, which should be indicated. And in some countries it was 13, in some countries 16, and it was a real problem. And I think this is the point in which finally, after some years of the functioning of GDPR, we don't know exactly how it is functioning. Yes, so probably because this is a real problem, we need to consider that this is completely different digital era, digital space. And very often we don't know exactly what is the age of the person. There are many possibilities to anonymize persons and people using internet. So I think it's a question, and it should be solved also from not only from the merit side, but from the technical point of view. If it is in general, if it is possible to check it. But on the other hand, the purpose that we want to protect children, minors, it's of course crucial. And of course, we need to discuss further and continue our discussion about internet advertisement models, yes, because for the future it will be not only related to the USA, but for the future it will be very important. And now we are going to Michał. Thank you, Julia. We are going to Michał Kanownik. Is the GSA going to miss certain opportunities? What is your view, Michał, on this problem?
Thank you very much, Michał. I think that very important, crucial questions about miss certain opportunities, because maybe shortly to my opinions in general about in this area. First, of course, DSA establishing a new restrictions, new obligations on online platforms, in my opinion, can make the European digital single market just a little bit slightly less welcoming space for service providers. It's very risky because on the one hand, we can make the situation in Europe there that some services potentially beneficial for SMEs could be delayed in Europe because these new obligations, new regulations. And who knows, maybe some services we might miss due the fact of these regulations, these new restrictions in this area. So this is very risky for SMEs, that we can create a situation in Europe that we cut down some services for SMEs, especially potential future services. And our SMEs, European SMEs, will be in a not so good situation than other SMEs in the world. So this is a first very risky situation. And second, my remark more general, and maybe in somehow in philosophy, maybe about regulations, about digital market and regulations. I said it many times in different discussions about DSA or DMA last few months, that we might be missing out a rare opportunity to regulate European Union's digital single market in favor of activity rather than against activity. I'm afraid that DSA is rather project against, not in favor. My dream is that in Europe we'll create a regulation to promote innovation, to promote digital transformation of SME, not only create regulations to put a new restrictions, new obligations for our market. As I mentioned before, we should create regulations to stimulate some more money for engineers, for new innovations, services, new products, new ideas, not only for new lawyers, new consultants, companies to prepare our SMEs for new obligations, new restrictions. So this is the two final remarks from my side. First, risky, and we don't know what will be in the future based on DSA. It could be risky for SME and new services on our European market. And second thing, in general, I can say to our members of parliament, let's try in the future, let's try focus on regulations in favor, not against.
Thank you very much, Michał. I think it is a very important message at the end of our discussion. Yes, to focus on development, not against development, and create balance between different kind of interests: interest of business, of big business, interest of small business, interest of users, interest of citizens, interest of consumers. I think it's crucial, and if we want to achieve our goal, as it was raised by Michal Kardos at the beginning, to create global standards. So we need to consider if the solutions which we are discussing, and after that we will implement them, are creating the norm sets and setting the norms for the future digital development all over the world. So this is one message, first message from our debate. The second, as I properly understood, that we all understand and appreciate the achievements and the positive side of the DSA, but we indicate some problems which should be solved during trilogue discussions and negotiations. So I fully agree that, of course, it should be done very fastly, but on the other hand, it should be done effectively and properly. Yes, so let's consider all aspects of some issues, as it was mentioned during the discussion, related to targeted advertising, related to model of know your business customer, related to exemptions, related to real conditions for real implementation, because it is crucial for the future. And I think that all our discussion is a very good message, and it should be addressed to all representatives during trilogue negotiations, from the governments, council, from the Commission, and also from European Parliament. Thank you very much for this discussion. I think that it was very, very fruitful. And Ivan, do you want to summarize the debate as a member of the European Parliament?
Thank you, Michal. I just want to say big thanks to everybody for really very, very rich contributions, very, very targeted points, which I'm sure will be useful for final debate. I'd like to highlight once again the importance of DSA, the importance of having the same rules, and to have the importance of the rules which will create new jobs, which will create new environment for new innovations for SMEs. Not everything is ideal, but we have to keep this objective in our minds, that we are working for new business ideas and new jobs at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michal Kardos, do you want to say at the end of something at the end of our discussion? I don't want, if you are connected. Yes, please.
I just want to thank you for this discussion. I think it has been very fruitful discussion, really. Thank you very much to all of you, all of the guests, and definitely we'll continue in this kind of events, also in cooperation with our other partners in Poland and in other countries, with the Digital Coalition. So we are looking forward to a future cooperation, and good luck with the negotiations. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much to all of you. And at the end, I want to say, Slava Ukraini, because I think it's crucial. Keep fingers for them. Thank you very much.